Well, first about the Snyder speech, which in the Bundestag, I think, which is by itself a historic event because of the place he spoke and because of his international standing and because of the things he said. I think it's going to be really have a lasting effect on German public discourse. I've tried to make this argument before. I had in 2013 an article called Germany's responsibility for Ukraine, and I couldn't publish it. And I was submitting it, was a little piece, and I was sending it to different because I also said, we have to acknowledge that we have a separate responsibility for Ukraine. We cannot just have a sort of a generic responsibility to the former Soviet Union, but we have to look at Ukraine more so maybe than at other territories. And eventually it was then published in a very marginal anti-racist journal that took it. Deutschland's Verantwortung für die Ukraine was, I think, the title of the. I mean, Snyder, of course, outlined this in much more detail with much more, stamina, and he's a major historian. I was sort of a dilettante commentator on this before. But in general, one has to say, I think the German misunderstanding here has a lot to do with the absence of German Ukrainian studies as a fully established academic discipline. We have far less academic research and institutions dealing with Ukraine than Canada, for instance, or than the US. This has now a little bit improved since the Euromaidan. There's now also a professorship at the Viadrina University in Frankfurt-Oder, close to Berlin, being created on Ukrainian history. That's going to be the first professorship, I think since World War II, specifically on Ukraine. In Germany, there was another one in Greifswald on Ukrainian language, but not on Ukrainian history. So it's now improving. There's more happening in this field, but there's still, I think, German Ukrainian studies are underdeveloped, even in comparison to Britain. Although Britain is further away from Ukraine, and British people would naturally have less interest in Ukraine than Germans. And it's only slowly now changing, and so I think this disregard for Ukraine has a lot to do with simply the ignorance of Germans of Ukraine. I think that will now change, and the more that changes, I think the more German also solidarity with Ukraine will grow.